Now that I've shaded in the lips and I've tried to match the value to the photo, another dark area of my picture is my shirt. We're going to have some graphite sticks to color in large areas of our portraits, like our face, and a good area for this in mind would be my shirt. Now, graphite is like a darker and more intense pencil. I'm pressing pretty hard and applying a good amount of pressure to get this value, but you can press lightly and get a light value as well. We'll also have some blending sticks that we can go over our graphite and pencil. Notice how when I went over this area, it gets more soft and blended together. We'll also have some erasers that you can use to erase areas to create a highlight. So let's say on the end of the nose, I had a highlight. I might want to erase that area and then it will look like the light is hitting it. So I'm going to color in the shirt area of my portrait because that is the darkest value. And I'm trying to match the value in the picture. So I'm trying to get as dark as I can with the graphite stick. Also make sure that you have finished your picture by drawing the lines of your shoulder that go out to the edge of the paper. They might go to the side of the paper or the bottom. We just don't want any harsh edges like where my picture is cut off here and I have some empty white space. I'm going to color that area in with the graphite stick and try to match the value of my shirt in the picture as best as I can. I'm also going to do it on this side too because my shirt would be over here as well. Remember that you can use the blending tool to smooth out any of the pencil or graphite. When you're using your blending tool, it cannot be sharpened like a pencil. It's made of paper, and if you put it in a pencil sharpener, it would break and clog the pencil sharpener. So you can use both ends, you can use different sides, but eventually, once it has been used on a lot of artwork, we would throw it away. I'm just going over where I colored in with graphite, and I'm using little circular motions to blend it together and get rid of any harsh lines that are there. The next thing that I need to shade in is my skin tone. Even if you're fair skinned, your skin is not as light as the paper. So if you look in your photo, it's some kind of shade of gray. Some people's might be lighter, some might be darker. When I'm using the graphite stick for this, I'm pressing very lightly and I'm barely adding it to my paper. Once I color in an area, I'm going to use the blending tool to blend it together and get rid of any of the harsh lines. You're going to need to go back over the graphite a lot with your blending tool to make it smooth. You may want to practice the different values you can create with the graphite stick on a piece of scratch paper. One thing that you can do with the graphite stick is on a scratch piece of paper, color dark with your graphite stick, get a lot of it on your paper, and then you can use one of the blending tools and rub over that area that you colored in. Then you will get some of it on the blending tool and you can use it to add a light value when you're working on your skin tone. This will give it a softer look than coloring it. It depends on the amount of darkness that you have on your face. Some of you might have more shadows, some of you might have less. Sometimes when we're using the graphite, we can get some harsh lines on our paper. It's hard to get a very light, consistent value for our skin tone. It's just something that takes practice. So you can decide which works best for you. Maybe using the blending tool and the graphite stick works best for you. Or making an area on your paper with dark graphite and then going over the area of your face that you need some value on. Remember that you can always use a tissue as well for blending out your pencil or graphite. When you do this, you can put your finger around the tissue and use little circular motions to blend it out and give it a softer look. So I'm gonna go ahead and lightly shade in my entire face, and then I'm going to go back and add some highlights and blend it all in with my blending tool. Once you blend in your face area, you may notice that some areas of your drawing got a little bit light or faded from the blending process. So you may need to go back around and draw in those features again where the lines got a little bit faded. So I'm going around my mouth here, going around my nose shape, and just redrawing the line that got a little bit light. The next thing we're going to want to look at in our photo is where the light and the shadows are. The areas where the light is hitting you in your photo is called the highlights. So to create a highlight, if you've already shaded in that area, you can erase a little bit of the pencil or the graphite. So I noticed that I have a highlight here on the end of my nose. Most of you will too, because that is the area that sticks out from our face, and naturally the light would hit there. So I erased a little bit, and then I'm blending it in with my blending tool to give it a softer look. I noticed that I also have a highlight area on my cheek, so I can erase a little bit there to make it a little bit brighter. And when I'm erasing, I'm using my eraser gently, going in little circular motions again. This is all about doing a little bit at a time. You can always add a little more value back into it or erase a little bit more. Now that looks a little bit harsh, so I'm going to blend the edges of that highlight. Another thing that you're going to want to look for is the shadow areas around your face. So I noticed that I have some shadows around my eye, on the top of my hairline near my forehead, and on the side of my face, and underneath my chin here. When you're adding shadows, you can do that by just doing a little bit of shading. Like we've practiced before, you can press hard at the edge of an object and then let go of your pressure to get lighter. When you add the highlights and the shadows, things will start to appear more realistic and look more like you. So I'm going to go ahead and add all the highlights and shadows to my face. The next thing I need to add shading to is my hair. Now my hair happens to be very close to the value of my face, but for some of you, your hair could be lighter or darker. So I'm going to want to shade very lightly with the graphite stick, or I could use my pencil, and I'm going to try to do it in the direction that the hair is going in. And I don't necessarily have to fill everything in, but I'm going to do it in lines so it looks like hair. Now, if your hair sticks up, then you're going to want to draw your lines going in that direction. If you have curly hair, then you're going to want to draw curls or little curved lines to show the texture of your hair. If your hair is wavy, then you can use wavy lines. That's kind of like what I'm going to use. If your hair is straight, then straight lines. But remember that you want to show the texture of the hair. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in this area with some lightly drawn lines, and then I'm going to blend that area in. I'm also keeping in mind the areas that are darker and lighter when I'm doing this. I see that I have a highlight up here near the top, so I'm going to press very lightly there. But down here, my hair is a little bit darker in the photo. Now that I've drawn some lines in my hair, I can go over it with my blending tool to soften it a little bit. We don't want any harsh lines again in this area, but we can leave some of the texture because we want it to look like hair. So I'm going to go back over this with my blending tool and soften it a little bit. In the areas of your hair, you can also use the eraser to erase any of the areas that got a little bit too dark, or if you want to go back and add a highlight. It's best to do this with the edge or the corner of an eraser to get a sharp look so it looks like a piece of hair. And I'm doing this in the direction that my hair is in. Instead of going horizontally with this, I'm going up and down and kind of in a slightly wavy line because my hair is a little bit wavy. The last material that we can add to this is black colored pencil. So when I look at my picture, I know that there are areas that are darker than I can get with my pencil. So in the shadows, I'm gonna go over those areas a little bit with black colored pencil and blend them into the regular pencil and the graphite. And this is just gonna make those shadows pop out a little bit more. And it's also going to make the highlights, the light areas of our picture, stand out even more because we'll have more contrast. So I can see along the edge of my face here that I need to add a little bit more value. Anything that you think needs to be outlined a little bit to make it pop or stand out, you can do that with the black colored pencil. So like I'm outlining the edge of my hair shape here just to make it stand out a little more and separate it from my forehead. And I'm going to add a little more shadow here along my face. I'm gonna keep doing that until I feel like it matches the photo as much as it can. Once you've gone over all the important details with a black colored pencil and given it a light outline and added any more shading that you need to make the shadows pop out, and you feel like your portrait is as close to the photo as it can be, then you can go ahead and cut it out around the shape. So you're gonna cut around your head shape and then down around your other shoulder. We're going to glue this to our painted paper background. The black and white photo and shading will contrast the colorful background and make your portrait really stand out. Once your picture is cut out, then you can decide which end of your painted paper you want to glue your picture on. For mine, I think I'm going to glue mine on the pink end, but you pick whatever works best for your painted paper. We're going to use white liquid glue for this because our painted paper has a different texture now than normal paper. So I'm going to put glue all along the edges of my portrait. I'm not putting a ton of glue, but just a line around the edge. And then just a little squiggle in the middle. Then I'm going to carefully flip it over and we're going to glue this on the edge of our painted paper so that the edges of the papers match up. When you're pressing down, be careful that you don't get any glue on your photo side or your drawing side. We don't want to get any smudges and ruin our hard work. Once you have glued down your picture, then you can go ahead and recycle the other half of your portrait picture. Then once you've glued it on, you can put this on the drying rack so that the liquid glue will dry. I hope you had fun working on your value half portrait and learning how to match the values in a photo by using some different techniques and tools like adding highlights with an eraser, using a blending tool to blend your pencil together, using a graphite stick to color in a large area, and then adding it to your painted paper so that it stands out against the colorful background. I can't wait to see how yours turns out.